Evolutionary.org Underground Supplements Edition. This is going to be number 8. Glad to have everybody with us. This one, we're going to talk about N2Guard. Is it worth the money? And that's a great topic. And it's a great one to understand. We've had so many people come on the forums and ask it, but like, do I really need N2Guard? Should I really be spending this money on N2Guard? And then they use the product and they're like, damn, this stuff is good. I have so many people that come back to me and say, Steve, you were right. N2Guard made a huge difference. This stuff works. So we're going to get into why it works. I mean, it's not rocket science why it works. I mean, it's got so many damn ingredients in the product. It's got over 40 ingredients in the product. So you're taking 40 plus supplements, and you're basically taking it all in one bottle, so it does so many different things for us. And we're going to get into that. So first, let's talk about the company that came up with this, and Needtobuildmuscle, N2BM. And N2BM, I first found out about N2BM years ago, Elite Fitness Form. I'd say it was in the late 2000s. And they've been around since around the mid 2000s. I'd say 2005, 2006, N2BM first was founded. And the gentleman who founded N2BM, he was an ex-military who basically he got out of the military, and he was a really, really good chef. And so he would come on the forums and he would talk about different recipes and different things he was doing. And one of the other founders of N2BM, he was a businessman, and he was also a huge fitness athlete. He was into MMA. He was into weight training. He was into anabolic steroids. He had been using anabolic steroids since he was really, really young. So both of them were into anabolic steroids, and both of them were big into it. The military guy, he was this guy, he served overseas. He did a lot with that. He's a veteran. And he also got into anabolic steroids as well to help him, not just in his military career, but also afterwards to help him stay in shape. And so basically they wanted to come up with something, a company that catered to steroid users, but not just to normal steroid users. We're talking about type A personalities. We're talking about people who are really, really into this stuff and who love this stuff, who love food, who love weight training, who love, different sports, MMA, basketball, football, baseball, and all these different sports. And they wanted to come up with a company that catered to people like us, people like Mobster and I, people like you who are listening to this podcast, hardcore guys and gals out there who take this shit seriously and who grind in the gym. And that's why they came up with N2BM. And the company over time has definitely, improved. They started to grow the amount of products they have. And the number one supplement that they came up with was N2Guard, the number one selling supplement. And it's because N2Guard is such a great support supplement. And it's got everything you could possibly imagine in the formula. And even if you are just a normal Joe who just likes grinding at the gym a couple times a week, it's still great for you. And it's great for those who are using hardcore anabolic steroids at the same time. So we're going to get into more about N2Guard and how it was developed in a second. But I want to bring in Mobster to tell me about N2BM. I started becoming a customer of N2BM in like 2008, 2009. And I would order every month like clockwork. I'd order their products, and I love their products. The products, first of all, the value of their products was so much superior than the stuff I was getting from my local vitamin shop. So I'd still go to my local vitamin shop to get like raw nuts and different things and food and stuff like that. But I stopped using my vitamin shop for supplements because I found that the value of those supplements was just inferior. I could get better supplements from N2BM for less money than I was getting from my vitamin shop. And if you compared the two products, the support supplement from N2BM or a testosterone booster from N2BM or whatever the case may be, or creatine or a multivitamin or anything I was getting from N2BM compared to my vitamin shop, and you just looked at the label and you looked at the ingredients, it was like night and day. And N2BM, you could just order it online and they ship to you. One of the best things about N2BM, the reason they got so popular and grew so much and became staples for so many of you guys out there and gals out there, and myself and Mobster, is because their customer service was outstanding. They shipped out their products quick. If you needed help with something, they always were there. They had reps on the forums to help you answer questions, and no other supplement company can say that. So that's why they were able to grow so much. So they've grown into an amazing company, but they've always stayed small, where it's just like a brotherhood and a sisterhood of clients over time. They never got so big where they turned into a corporate giant, where they started switching out their products and using inferior ingredients, and then using marketing and paying off some bodybuilder who never even used the products to promote their stuff. No, they don't do that. It's all word of mouth advertising, and that's allowed them to become successful over time. And it always works when you, and they have a 99% retention rate with customers, which means if you use N2BM, you always come back. 99% of the time, you come back. So that's one of the things they do. So, Mobster, tell your personal story when you first started using N2BM products, and tell us a little bit more about the company.
I think I've been using it pretty much since I've been on the forums, which I believe is coming up to around 5-6 years, Steve. And let me tell you a quick side story that Steve just referred to when he was talking about the supplement shop. And I'm going to give you this as an indication of properly dosed products. So you've got GNC in the States and you've got GNC over here in the UK, Steve. And it's actually, funny enough, the same company is another very big health food shop on the high street here called Holland and Barrett. Now, both those companies and many supermarkets, etc., will sell you healthy supplement type products. Here's the issue. They all compete massively on price. And I'm just going to use a very simple example. And in fact, I'm actually going to refer to an energy generate product as a great indication of how it should probably be done. So pretty much, I think I could even find these in local small shops. You can find some sort of glucosamine sulfate type product on the high street in these big health food chains, in the big name brand companies that have shops in the malls in America, here in the UK, and so on and so forth. And it'd be like $3 or $5, pound equivalent, Steve. But it'd be like 30 pills. And when you look at the dosage, you'll say, oh, you should be using this amount per day. And it'd be like 300 milligrams. And then you go off and look up, because you should always look these things up, guys, the effective dosage that was proven to be useful in studies, and it's 1,500 milligrams. So you're getting a $3 or $5 product that's actually only selling you a fraction of the dosage. It's not a month's supply. It's barely like 2 weeks or something, Steve. It's ridiculous. So you start to look at, when you start to know about these things, when you start to look into these things, when you start to, as I like to say in this podcast, do your own research, you go, what company is legitimately selling me a properly dosed product that actually works? A great example, again, Steve, is they do a N2 joint RX, which is a properly dosed joint product. They do, or did, and I'm waiting for this one to come back, Steve, a properly dosed creatine product, which uses 3 different kinds of creatine called Ancient Strength. And N2Guard is one of these products where you guys asked the question, and this is the topic of today's thing, is it worth the money? So let me answer that very simply. Yes. And the reason why it's worth the money is, guys, if you're going to spend $500 or $1,000 a cycle, you should not be arguing over the cost of a product that benefits you when it comes to looking after your organ health, keeping you operating properly. Guys, you're happy. I think Steve's used this analogy before, Steve. People who happily pay for detailing on a car, but they won't spend the money on the oil, or they'll have a tint put on the windows, but they won't have good brakes. We're looking to put $1,000 sometimes into our bodies for a cycle. We go out and we're absolutely killing it. I want all our listeners to kill it every single time they go to the gym. This is the kind of product that it's aimed at you, guys that go to the gym and take that shit seriously. Really grind, You're eating the most boring food known to mankind. It's day 14 of chicken and rice, guys. And then holding back from spending a few extra bucks on a solid product that's going to protect your, as best as possible, your organ health, to me seems kind of crazy. So when it comes to Need to Build Muscle, they are, as Steve said, the product development, the concept behind it, and this something else I'm going to touch on as well, Steve. The work that they did with formulation companies to put these products together, the synergy of all these ingredients is incredibly difficult. It is a very time consuming, hard to get your head around process. Steve, I wouldn't want to do this product formulation. I would literally need a team of people around me to sit down in an office and walk me through this, the way that we're going to walk you through some of the ingredients today, guys, to tell me how this dose and this dose and this dose works together. And one of the things that we like to say, well, bloods will out. So what do we talk? What do I mean by that? You go away, you run your cycle without N2Guard, and you run your cycle with N2Guard, and you will see a positive difference in your blood results. It's as simple as that, Steve. So the whole process of putting these products together is difficult. Getting the product to come out at a kind of sensible price means they have to buy a lot of it at a time. They have to go to the big formulation companies, the processing companies that make these things for them, because they don't do this stuff in-house, and they have to buy tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. And then I know, for example, Steve, there's a company right here in the UK that I can buy it directly from. So it's going all over the world to people as who listen to this podcast, who are out there pushing themselves, as Steve said earlier on, above and beyond. We're not just people who go to the gym. We're people who go to the gym with a purpose, to grind, to get strong, to get more muscular, to do that no matter what, and to do that and take it seriously. So the type A personalities that Steve referred to earlier on are always going to be looking for an edge. And ultimately, N2Guard is something that's going to give them an edge, even if it's only in the organ protection, the health benefits, with a company like Needtobuildmuscle. I like the simple fact, Steve, like Steve, they've kept it simple, they've kept it straightforward. The company, the way that it's structured, etc., etc. I like the fact that they have these particular products out there. And yeah, I've got to say, Steve, there were 2 or 3 products of theirs I'm a huge fan about. N2Guard is number 1, and N2 Joint RX. Come on, guys, I need it back on my table. That is one of my favorite joint products ever. And I can only think of one other company that gets even close to some of the product formulations they have, Steve. Back to you.
So, Monster and I, before we did, when we did the pre-show, I talked to him. I was like, Monster, we're doing a N2Guard podcast, and so we had some time to prepare for the podcast. About a week prepare for the podcast. But in the pre-show, I mentioned to Monster. I was like, Monster, look, N2Guard. We got to talk about N2Guard. How many ingredients this stuff has? It's basically, I'd say it's like the United States. The United States is 50 states, right? Plus territories. But the United States is also, I consider the United States like 50 countries within a country, And that's how N2Guard is. It's not just a supplement. It's 40 plus supplements within a supplement. So it's like, it's almost like cheating, when you have, it's like the United States. Why is the United States the most powerful and wealthiest country in the world? It's 50 countries within one country. So it's the same thing with N2Guard. N2Guard is.
Let me jump in here for a second,
yeah.
Steve. So something that Steve and I actually talked about in the pre-show. I'm going to cover this one, Steve. I said, Steve likes to joke about just how old I am, and I'm getting there for sure, right? But you guys can look these things up for yourself. I might be ancient, Steve, but the guys can find these video clips, right? And something that Steve and I have even been guilty of this before we come across Needtobuildmuscle. So back in the day, when we first started training, and I'm going to refer to something else as well, we would have a row of supplements on our desk, in our den, in our little cubby hole, wherever the hell it was, Steve, at work, if you had the desk at work, in your bedroom and whatever, right? And we would go to the supplement shops. I was lucky enough, Steve, to work in central London for part of my career. And I had a bodybuilding shop, Weeder's bodybuilding shop in the Charing Cross Underground, and go in there and buy new products. When Inner Scene came out, I went down and so on, right? So a great example of this, and it's just not me and Steve, right, is pumping iron. in Pampinoan, both in the book and in the movie, specifically in the movie, there's a couple of scenes, Steve, where Lou Ferrigno's at Matt Ferrigno's house, his dad's house. And on the mantelpiece, he's standing in front of the mantelpiece, and the camera's obviously filming him where they're talking to him and whatever else, because it's a docudrama. And there is a row of supplements. There's vitamins, there's minerals, there's oils, there's this, there's that, it's like 12 or 13 bottles or containers, Steve. So, you know, this is the way that it used to be. If you wanted, I need this because it's good for my health. I need this because it's good for my eyes. I need this because it's good for my fingernails. I need this because it's good for bodybuilding. I need this because vitamin C is great for everything. And so that's what you did. You went out and you bought these little containers, and you could end up hundreds of dollars, Steve, especially back in the day. It wasn't cheap. Bodybuilding was nowhere near as big then as is now. They just didn't have the buying power. So these guys would go miles, especially in America, Steve, miles to go and buy these products. But mail order was a pain in the ass. And then they would literally, Steve could talk about this, 10, 15, sometimes 20 different bottles to do different things. Now, when we're talking about N2Guard, we're talking about 44, as Steve said, over 40 ingredients, all in one place and formulated specifically to do all the things that these 44 separate ingredients, because that's what the guys would have done back in the place. They would have been liver tablets, vitamin C tablets, iron tablets. I can tell you horror stories of pro bodybuilder. I think one was Ian Harrison, professional UK bodybuilder back in the day, eating and then spewing up and then re-eating, Steve, because he didn't want to waste them 100 amino acid tablets. This is the shit that we used to have to fucking do. We do not have to do that now. And thank Christ for computers and everything else, Steve, for people that know how this stuff works, how to source the ingredients, how to go halfway around the globe to get the properly sourced ingredients, how to put these things together, as I call the synergy, the formulation. It's getting one ingredient to work with another ingredient, to work with another ingredient, so that how difficult that is, Steve, is crazy. Talk about just your own personal experience of how many pills and tablets and stuff that you used to take before companies like Needtobuildmuscle came along.
Yeah, so I used to go to my vitamin shop, which was connected to my gym, and you know, the owner and I were friendly, and he was a nice guy and everything. But you know, I'd end up buying this supplement, that supplement. I'd have to get, you know, my liver supplementation, my kidney supplementation, my heart supplementation. I mean, it added up, man. And you know, it was just ridiculous how much I was spending on supplements. I was talking $400 or $500 a month I was spending when I would run my steroid cycle. So then I started using N2Guard from N2BM, and I was like, shit, I'm getting everything and way more, and it's dosed. You know, the dosing is excellent. So that was why it was developed. The founders of N2BM wanted to come up with something that was a one-stop shop for everything you need. And boy, did they come up with a great formula. And it was brilliant the way they put together the formula, because it basically covers all bases, and it's been improved over time. The original N2Guard formula, for example, did not have TUDCA. Now it does, and it's got the perfect amount of TUDCA, which works in synergy with the other products that are in there. It's got 6-7 liver support supplements all in one. You know, milk thistle is so popular among bodybuilders throughout the 80s and 90s, but N2Guard has it. So why do you have to spend 20, 30 bucks on a month's supply of milk thistle when N2Guard already has it in the formula? Why do you have to spend 30, 40 bucks on TUDCA when N2Guard has it in the formula? You see? So if you're spending 30, 40 bucks on each supplement and you've got 40 plus supplements, do the math. It's going to cost you hundreds of dollars to buy these supplements individually. And then you've got to take them, like Mobster mentioned in the old videos, Lou Ferrigno, he's going on his mantle and he's like grabbing each supplement. It's ridiculous. You would have thought someone would have came up with this idea a long time ago, but it's not that easy when you're formulating supplements to do that, because you've got to be able to source the supplements. You got to put them together. So it takes a lot to do that. And it's one of the things many other companies have tried to copy what N2BM does with very minimal success. In fact, we've pulled up some different companies' support supplements compared to N2Guard. They've got maybe 8 supplements in there, 12, maybe 15. I think the most I've seen is 20. and they were inferior. Like the dosing was lower. It wasn't even close to what N2BM has to offer. So look, the bottom line is you've got to know what you're buying, and you got to check the ingredients. So that's why N2Guard was developed. It was developed to help steroid users specifically, but now you can use it whether you're using steroids or not using steroids. So we're going to get into that shortly. So I'm going to talk about next, Mobster, what happens when you use steroids, but touch on the
Yes.
final thing. Go ahead.
No, actually, I was gonna prompt you, Steve. I think that the people that are not necessarily familiar with the performance enhancement use, and of course that's the reason why they're listening to this podcast, there's a lot of scare stories out there. We should all be dropping dead every 5 minutes according to the media, but the reality, and Steve's going to get into the nitty gritty here. He's our blood test expert on the forums. He knows what these numbers mean. The reality is, and I discussed this with Steve in the pre-show, and it's actually something I touched upon on the forum the other day. In order, especially at my level now, Steve, and for Steve's level, right? When you've been training as long as we have, for us to make progress now is incredibly hard. For us to get stronger, bigger, more muscular at this point in time is incredibly hard. That's precisely why users like to use performance-enhancing drugs. But the stress, and it's not even the stress of a single cycle, Steve, or just one training session. It is creating an environment for our body to grow, anabolism, getting bigger, getting more muscular, getting lean and whatever else. And especially, again, if you've been doing it for a while, is hard. And it's the reason why we use performance-enhancing drugs. Now, at the same time, especially when it comes to dosages, we talk about sensible doses on this podcast all the time, but when you get into those dosages that are pushing that anabolic environment, you're increasing the stress levels on your body. And of course, and we will touch on this as well, the reality of life can be stressful. A lot of you listeners will be out there to grind at work, Steve. Some of you will be laboring on construction sites. Some of you younger listeners might be enjoying yourself a little bit too much at the weekends, and so on and so forth. So and that's just without getting into the environment and pollution and whatever else. So the stresses on our body to create that freaky look that we want is difficult. And Steve's going to talk about the kind of effects that anabolic drugs, anabolic steroids, and other performance enhancement drugs have on the body. Back to you, Steve.
So what happens when you use anabolic steroids? What happens to your organs? What happens to your body? So first off, anabolic, the word anabolic. Anabolic steroids, obviously, they're inflammatory in the body. So a lot of things are going to happen. Anything inflammatory in the body, obviously, is gonna hit your organs across the board. It's not just your liver. Everyone thinks if you use anabolic steroids, oh, it hurts my liver. No, it hurts your kidneys too. That's why you have bodybuilders dropping dead from kidney failure. Your kidneys basically are a sponge, and your liver is a sponge, and it's filtering, and that's its job. So if you don't have a kidney working properly, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to go, and you're going to have procedures done to hook you up to get your kidneys taken care of. That's called dialysis. And anybody who has to get that done, it sucks. You got to go in and sit down, and they hook you up, and they got to basically filter out your blood, and it sucks. I mean, it's a procedure, and it takes hours. So imagine having to do that 3 times a week. Well, that's what happens when your kidneys fail. So when you use anabolic steroids, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your kidneys. Not to mention, you're eating a high protein diet. Not to mention you're stressing out your body so much, and you're not getting adequate rest. You're not taking time off. Whatever, it adds up over time. So the idea behind N2Guard is it's going to help flush out your kidneys. It's going to help your kidneys work better. It's going to help your liver work better. It's also going to help your heart health. What happens when you use anabolic steroids? Your heart, your cholesterol levels go out of whack, and your cholesterol is your body's way of balancing things out. So if we take cholesterol medication, as you always should, you should always listen to your doctor. We tell you that on this podcast. Always listen to your doctor. But the ironic thing is when you take cholesterol medication, it lowers cholesterol. But obviously, that's also going to cause a secondary problem if you're using a ton of anabolic steroids. Any good doctor, and they will tell you this if they are a good doctor, is they'll tell you, I'm going to put you on cholesterol medication, but you also have to fix your lifestyle. You have to fix what you're putting in your body. You have to fix your stress. You have to exercise more, because these cholesterol medications are not something that you should use as a crutch. You should use them when you need to get your cholesterol levels down, because we don't want you to get a stroke. We don't want to get your blood pressure. Same thing with blood pressure medication. I'll put you on blood pressure medication, and you should always take blood pressure medication if your doctor recommends it to you. But your doctor, a good doctor, will always tell you, I'm going to put you on blood pressure medication with the advanced knowledge that eventually you're going to not need them, because you're going to get your lifestyle fixed. You're going to get your diet in check, and you're going to start exercising and strengthening your heart. And then we're going to drop the blood pressure meds, and then we're going to hopefully where you don't need them anymore. And that's the idea behind why we take these medications. Well, with N2Guard, when you're running a cycle, your cholesterol levels are going to become all out of whack, and that's normal on cycle. That's why we cycle on and we cycle off. But you need to have it under control. And N2Guard will absolutely help with your blood pressure, with your cholesterol. It's got so many different ingredients to help with your heart. And that's one of the things that people who use N2Guard will come back and say. They'll say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I ran a cycle without N2Guard, and then I ran the same cycle with N2Guard, and my gosh, my blood pressure was like 10 to 20 points lower when I used N2Guard. And then when I ran out of N2Guard on cycle, a few days later, I noticed my blood pressure go up, my heart rate go up. I wasn't sleeping as well. My energy wasn't as good. This stuff works. So then they order another bottle, and it arrives, and then they get back on it. And then a few days later, once it's back in their system, they're like, wow, I feel so much better when I'm on N2Guard. And that's why when you use N2Guard, the smell test works with N2Guard. You will feel the difference when you're N2Guard. And it's not your imagination. If you get your cholesterol levels checked before and after, get your blood pressure checked before and after, all things being equal, you will definitely see the improvement. Your kidney numbers will get better. Your liver numbers will get better. Now, I'm not going to sit here and BS you and say, yeah, if you're taking 2 injectables and 2 oral steroids, which are 17 alpha alkylated, and you take N2Guard, is that going to mean that your AST and ALT levels will be normal? No, but they won't be as bad they won't be as bad on the N2Guard as they would be off. So the idea here is you're not causing as much damage when you use N2Guard with your anabolic steroids. Because without N2Guard and you use anabolic steroids, you're going to cause a tremendous amount of damage. Your AST and ALT will be at 150 versus being, say, at 70 or 80, which is a manageable number. And then when you come off, it will drop back down to normal levels quickly when you're on N2Guard. But when you're not on N2Guard, it may take time to drop back down. And then now you're stressing out your liver, even off cycle, you're stressing it out because it's so overwhelmed. And you're stressing out your kidneys the same way. So that's the idea of what happens when you use steroids with N2Guard and without N2Guard. You will definitely notice the difference across the board, Mobster. Talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely, Steve. I mean, look, it's quite simple, guys. If I decide today, Steve, to be a world-class sprinter, and I begin the process, for me to get to 12 seconds, it's quite a feat, okay? But for me to get down to 11 seconds, 10 seconds, and under 10 seconds puts me in a particular place physically that makes me elite, Steve, in the world. It makes me, I don't know, 50 runners in the world, sub 10 seconds. And then it becomes fractions and fractions and fractions. So for me to then become perhaps the fastest man on earth means I have to physically put my body into a place that is above and beyond anybody else. Now, for us to do the same physically, as I said before, we take an average Joe, we train him for a number of years, he eats healthily, etc., etc., etc. And let's imagine that he's 5'10", Steve, and he gets to 230 pounds lean. That's impressive, and it actually puts him very, very close to elite. It puts him just outside. For him to go from just outside to inside is a physical stressor above and beyond what everybody else that's got to his level has done. And it's suddenly, when we're talking about elite, we're talking about maybe 100,000 people in the world. For him to end up, perhaps, for example, on the Mr. Olympia stage, is 1,000 people potentially on the whole planet. And the physical process of getting to that particular place, it literally physically standing on stage at the Olympia, but in the gym, in terms of PED use, in terms of the stresses on the body, it's hard for people to get their brains around it. It really is. And so your thought process is always going to be driven in order to get into that mental physical space. But at some point, and that's the reason again why you're listening to this show, you have to say to yourself, what can I do to give my body an edge? Can I make my career last longer? Can I stay on cycle more? Can I have the same numbers if I take a little bit more because I'm using a product? That's the way that kind of mentality is. And it just happens to be that particular way. So, I mean, I use that analogy that I used earlier on, Steve. So if we were in the fast cars, it ain't about necessarily the bloody seat that you're sitting in the car, Steve, or the seatbelt or whatever else. It's all going to be about the engine and the suspension and the infrastructure that gets me to 200 plus miles an hour. And in order for me to, for example, Steve, not die a horrible death, I want really good brakes. I do want that six-point racing harness. Now, we'll do that, and we have no issues whatsoever with the mental process of thinking like that. High-end stereo, thousands of dollars just on the cable and so on. But we don't always sometimes think that way when it comes to our physical selves. But we need to. We need to understand that for us to do crazy, fucked up shit in the gym, world-class bench pressing, a 20-plus inch bicep on someone who's normal height, for you to get into that place physically requires a stressor on the body above and beyond what everybody else at the gym, or almost everybody else at the gym that you know of, is capable of doing. That's why there's very few people at the gym with a six-pack and 20-inch arms and looking like they compete. Right? It's going to be one or two people. That's including the women. One or two people that compete. They are going to be the obsessives. And for them, every nuance, every angle, every little tiny thing that they can possibly do to get themselves there physically, to be the winner on stage, the winner on the platform, the fastest person on the planet, it requires a daily level of dedication and obsessiveness that would make your eyes water. But we are giving you an edge. We are saying this is something that you can do to promote as best you possibly can while you're stressing the fuck out of yourself, while you're trying to get into that elite, significantly special place, that you can protect yourself as best as possible. And a great example of this, Steve, I would say this is almost a given for our listeners. We're not talking about one cycle, are we, listeners? It's one of those things that once you take that step, you nearly always do another one and another one. So again, it's long-term health here as well, Steve. And we're going to talk about the benefits specifically of certain particular ingredients. And we're going to talk about, and I mentioned it earlier on, Steve, the stresses of life, maintaining that physique off cycle, keeping healthy off cycle, keeping healthy and promoting a positive response to cycle with your PCT. So you're retaining your side, you keep that level of leanness or as close as possible as you had on cycle, and so on and so forth. I mean, a great example is, Steve, no one wants to look absolutely amazing on stage and then a few days later look like shit. You still want to look kind of amazing off stage. I mean, look, again, there is zero argument, I think, to promoting the idea of being as healthy as you possibly can while you are, for want of a better phrase, Steve, doing fucked up shit, which is kind of unhealthy, both mentally and physically. So yeah, guys, you're looking for an edge. We wanted to give you an edge, but we're looking always to promote as healthy a response to these things, PEDs, training, nutrition as possible, and life outside where you live, stresses in life, but especially in the gym, under the bar, when you're doing crazy, fucked up kind of stuff. I think that the element here, Steve, is, which kind of covers it, and I made a note of this earlier in the show, when I thought to myself, the very definition of what is seen to be hardcore versus what is. So there's a lot of listeners, myself included, almost certainly back in the day, where I might have thought of myself as some sort of hardcore trainer or whatever else. But I realize now, looking back, Steve, that it was another level below where I am now in terms of what I do and the obsession and the life I've led, etc., to be able to do this very show. And You think you're hardcore back in the day, but when you actually look at what you're doing then and you compare it to now, there's difference between training because I enjoy it and training to be on stage. The difference between lifting because I enjoy it and lifting on the platform. It's that kind of place. Now, even if you decide never to compete, never to lift on a platform, you should still be positively looking for an edge to maintain what you've got and to remain as healthy as long as possible. One of my training partners is 76. The idea of still kicking ass when you're 76 years of age and looking, in his case, 15 to 20 years younger is exactly the sort of edge that we want. We don't want to, I don't want to be one of those burn brightly but burn shortly guys. I want to still be kicking ass for a long time and as healthy as possible. And especially, so that's what we're looking at with N2Guard today. Steve, let's talk about some of these ingredients now. I mean, there's so many of them. We're not going to literally go through every single ingredients list because we do an hour just on that alone. So we're going to randomly pick some and just give you an idea of just how healthy the benefits are for different ingredients. I also touch on, Steve, while we're doing that, making sure that the ingredients is sourced properly. For example, and I've touched on this in other shows, some need to come from the leaf, some need to be a specific percentage of active ingredient, some need to come from the root, and so on and so forth. So when we do talk about some of these ingredients, I'm going to specifically mention the source product, the source material that they've used, because this is super important. Like Steve said earlier on, you can find inferior products with less, half at the most, I think 20 or 22 ingredients, where the percentages of active ingredient are wrong, the source material is wrong, and so on and so forth. Trust me on this. And again, it's do your own research, listeners. You can find this information and say, right, that's exactly the right percentage from the right source, from the right country, and so on. That's real difficult. So make sure you pay attention to these ingredients as we're doing, and then come along and check what we said.
So let's start with the vitamins and minerals that are in N2Guard. And a lot of people want to know that, like, I'm on a multivitamin. I'm spending like 50, 60 bucks a month just on a multivitamin. And then you look at the multivitamin and it's like crap. I mean, the ingredients are crap. It's a lazy formula. Whoever put it together, they just basically, you can tell they copy pasted it off another, I don't know. And they just came up with a formula, and then they use a bunch of bodybuilders to promote it. And then they sell it for 50, 60 bucks when it costs like $2 to produce, probably. It's garbage, you know? And that's all it's worth. It ain't going to do shit for you, you know? So, look, N2Guard has so many different ingredients. It's got vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, thiamine, riboflavin, vitamin B6, folate, vitamin B12, calcium, iodine, pantothenic acid, magnesium, zinc, selenium, boron. You know, it's got all these ingredients that are minerals and vitamins, and they all do a great job on different things. They can help you with your bone health, they can help you with your muscles, they can help you with your testosterone levels, they protect the heart, they boost your immune system, they help the brain, they do so many different things. They help your immune system, they help with blood glucose, they help with protein synthesis regulation, they help your thyroid with your metabolism, they help with nerve function and so many different things. They help with anemia. They help with your mood, you know, with stress. And these are vitamins and minerals that we need in our bodies. And N2Guard has you covered across the board with these. It really is amazing. Another supplement that I'm going to talk about a couple of really good heart supplements, because we talked about the heart on this. And if you use anabolic steroids, whether you use them or not, these are going to help your heart. Polyquinosanol, apple pectin, coenzyme Q10. These are great ingredients. And you can go buy coenzyme Q10. It's called CQ10 or CoQ10. A lot of people call it. And it's a #1 heart supplement out there that is recommended by doctors and nutritionists and all kinds of things because it's so good with your heart health. It also helps cells process energy. And then the polyquinosanol and apple pectin are fantastic antioxidants, and they help with fighting cancer, and they help with heart health and digestion and fiber and all kinds of things you wouldn't even expect. So these ingredients, they not only help with the heart, they help with so many different things. So really the ingredients, Mobster, right off the bat. If you just look at those ingredients, those are like 15 different ingredients right off the bat that I just went through. And they do so many different things.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happens here, guys, and I think it's a great indication sometimes of our level of dedication and obsessiveness. The typical bodybuilding diet can quite often be incredibly restrictive. There's a great video over there that made the rounds for, I think it was on Lad Bible a couple of years ago, Steve, of some young fella, bless him, talking about rice, fish, and chicken. And we've seen a lot of, especially in the restrictive diets, nowhere near enough vegetables. And of course, we get it. We understand it. You are literally eating for function. You're not eating for taste. You're not. You're only trying. I'm trying to get as much chicken down my neck as possible, Steve, to grow. I'm only having rice so I've got energy for the gym, and so on. Right. So, especially when it comes to competitions, diets can be unbelievably restrictive, and the difficulty for you to get in every single thing that you need from this restrictive diet can be super, super hard. So all these vitamins and minerals are going to support great normal health. Never mind going to the gym kind of health, but great normal health. But it's also going to help you, especially when you're on a restrictive diet. This is what we sometimes miss out on information-wise, Steve, when we discuss these kind of things, because people won't mention the simple fact that they're only having broccoli or they're only having green beans, and you go, okay, you need more of this. We see a lot, and Steve had actually mentioned one already. That is a mold booster of fiber. When you're on those kind of diets, your fibers can sometimes be really bad, Steve. So we literally have people supplement the fiber, and this is actually apopectin in there as a supporter of fiber. I mean, other stuff here, Steve, and I'll just list a couple here. Hawthorn berry. I've actually just looked this up recently. 7 milligrams, great for blood pressure, cholesterol, and other heart ailments. We literally have that growing by me, Steve, and I was looking it up for wild foraging purposes for local community groups. Turmeric root. How popular has turmeric become in the last few years, Steve, to the point where you've seen adverts in the back of local newspapers, etc., online, like the be all and end all. In reality, an absolutely amazing antioxidant, Steve, and a great anti-inflammatory. Now, again, training is unbelievably inflammatory. It's actually part of the physical response for it to be so, in order for the body to respond and grow new muscles, bigger muscles, thicker muscles, stronger muscles. But at the same time, that constant level of inflammation is stressful on the body. So anything that's going to reduce that stressor, you're still going to get the anabolic response, but reduce the rest of it to enable your body to recover quicker from the stress that you're putting on your body is absolutely great. Taurine, Steve, 233 milligrams. I'm going to read from the article. An essential substance, that is an antioxidant, helps with the proper function of electrolytes, popularly used by those with anabolic steroids to help control painful pumps. Now, Steve and I can both talk about this from our own personal experience. One of my favorite PEDs is Anavar, but Anavar pumps can be fucking horrendous, Steve. And 9 times out of 10, when we've seen users on the forum coming out, I love the products I'm taking. I love the great results I get in the gym, but the pumps that kill me, the back pump from hell, the calf pumps from hell. In my case, Steve, the shin pumps made it so uncomfortable to walk. And taurine at 233 milligrams is a great way of decreasing that pump, that painful pump. We don't mind a bit in the gym, Steve, but when it's, my case was just walking to town to go to the bank and put some money into the bank, and I was in bits. It was killing me. People doing any kind of back work where the pump is just, if the I've got a kidney infection, no motherfucker, you just got a back pump from hell. Taurine is great, and that's another ingredient that's in there. I'll give you one more, Steve. Garlic fruit extract, 50 milligrams, another amazing antioxidant. We know how good garlic is for us. Also helping with brain function and heart health. And again, we see this with athletes. You do absolutely crazy stuff in the gym. There's literally a medical condition. I'm gonna euphemistically call it an athlete's heart, but essentially the heart's working really hard, pumping around that blood. You weigh 300 plus pounds like I do, the heart's got to work harder. And as an athlete's heart thing, where the muscle, because it is a muscle, grows and it hits up against the side of the rib cage. So anything that we can do that benefits heart health is going to be great for lifespan, but it also means, to use a euphemism again, that we can go harder in the gym because we've got a healthier heart that is pumping the blood around more, that we recover quicker from training and so on and so forth. Heart health, and to a lesser degree, Steve, the brain function is super, super important. You wouldn't think it on the brain function, but as an example, my generation, Steve, and again, slightly older, fortunately not for myself, but I'm starting to see people that I know that are older than me, and you're seeing more indications of strokes. And that's because they haven't lived a healthy lifestyle up until that point in time. And even sometimes I've been one or two athletes, they're stressing their bodies super hard. I'm thinking of particularly a road cyclist, a road racing cyclist, they pushing themselves super hard and ended up having issues with stroke. So brain health and heart health are unbelievably important. Give us another couple, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can go through, there's so many different options. The dandelion root is great for lots of things. We talk about water retention. It can help you on cycle, get rid of the excess water. Uva urse leaf extract. It's another one. Really, really good. So many different ingredients in this. I can't even get through. It even has things like parsley leaf, omega-3 fatty acids. These are things, yerba mate, which most people have never even heard of. Mobster, he's never even heard of it until maybe in the past couple of years he's heard of yerba mate. But it's a healthier plant-based drink that a lot of people consume in South America. And it's got so many different antioxidants. So it's got different food ingredients in here as well. Things like chlorophyll, which is a great detoxer. Beta-1,3 that /1,4 glucan. And it's great for cholesterol, cancer, diabetes, and immune system. It covers your all bases. The key ingredient too on here, black pepper fruit extract, which is in there because it helps you absorb all these ingredients. How many products out there? You see so many different ingredients in them. You're like, how do you even absorb all these ingredients? Well, that's how. They know what they're doing when they put this together. Mobster mentioned earlier TUDCA, and I'll talk about it again. It's got 250 milligrams per serving, and it works in synergy with everything else in here. Very, very powerful liver detoxer. It's turned into the #1 recommended supplement out there for the organs, and not just for the liver, but it's also great for other things like your heart and your kidneys as well. Prickolive, great for liver. We talked about the liver. It's great for liver in this. And you got milk thistle, which is another great liver. Red yeast rice, which is great for lowering cholesterol and other health benefits. And it's got astragalus root extract, which is used for heart disease and immune health. So many different ingredients, Mobster, in this one.
Something I've mentioned to Steve in the pre-show, and I mentioned it to you guys at the beginning of this podcast as well, I said you must look out for the source material. And I'll use milk thistle seed extract, 300 milligrams, as an example. On previous shows, when I've discussed milk thistle, it was one of those things that came around a few years ago, Steve, up there with tribulus. Tribulus was another one that stuck in my mind, where when it first came out, it needed to come from a certain place in the world. And what happened was, of course, people went absolutely crazy. I think the Bulgarian stuff was a specific one I'm thinking of, Steve. And people went crazy. And of course, like any great trend at the time, where you go, oh, I need to get that, there's something I should be using, and so on and so forth. You had the original source material that was used in the actual tests that have been studied and got these great results from, versus the poor, low grade, basically crap. Now, when it comes to a lot of these ingredients, you're looking at root or stem or stalk, leaf, seed, or fruit. Right, so there are parts of certain plants that do absolutely nothing. In fact, I can think of a couple, Steve, that are positively poisonous if you eat the wrong part. If you eat the right part, they're absolutely amazing, and we have them with our food on our plates all the time. I don't think anybody's out there eating potato leaves, for example, but we all have the potato, the humble spud. In this particular example, Steve, milk thistle, it's a seed extract at 300 milligrams. It's super, super important with some of these ingredients that you look at the specific source material. There's 0 point, for example, Steve, if some of these products aren't standardized. It means you maybe get an effective dose, but you probably aren't. And the price difference for companies that are buying this can be massively just ridiculous. I can buy a product that might be 25% standardized versus a 10% standardized. And the 10% is going to be obviously half price, but it's not going to have the effective dose that we want. So if the source material is things, astragalus root extracts, again, the right part of the plant, Steve, it has to be. As again, red yeast rice, 300 milligrams, not white, not brown, but red. It has to be the right kind and form of ingredient. This is why at the very beginning of the show, we talked about how difficult it is to formulate this product. You need to work with a company, a formulation company, and to sit down with industry experts when you decide to put this product together and you say, listen, can you get hold of these ingredients? Some of these ingredients, Steve mentioned South America, where I think the tribulus comes from Bulgaria and so on and so forth. It needs to be coming from halfway around the world in the right form, freeze-dried, kept storage properly, etc., etc., etc. It needs to be tested when it arrives at the company that's going to make sure it's exactly what it says. Does it come with a certificate of analysis to show me that it is what it is? Is it a properly approved product? Is it company, for example, I can think of a certain kind of creatine, Steve, that you can only get from one company in Germany. And that goes all over the world to be formulated into a bunch of creatine products from all over the planet. These things are super, super important. And that's what makes putting together a product like this so very, very hard. And again, it can be difficult for people that are not familiar with the source material, don't know about standardization, to get their heads, why would I pay this amount when I can get something that's half the price? Because, motherfuckers, you're not getting the right dose. You're not getting the right source material. It hasn't come from that country. It's not the same ingredient that came out in a lab test in a study that was used and proven as effective. And if it's not, you don't want to use it because you're not getting what you're paying for, or you're not getting even what the effect that you want. And like Steve said earlier on as well, I can say, because I've used N2Guard, but I'm actually thinking of someone else. Steve, one of our members on the forums, one of our forum members, who said something to the effect of, I feel the difference between on and off. They know how toxic they're going to feel on certain doses of steroids. They know how hard it is in the gym. And they know the sense of energy, the sense of well-being that they have. And when everything's working, meaning that organ health is tip-top, when they're getting all their vitamins and minerals, when even if their diet is lacking, they feel they're making up for any missing minerals, oils, herbs, etc., etc. They know how they feel. Now, that's just one person. Steve said multiple times on the forum, go away, get your blood tests, show me your blood, show me your lipids, show me your cholesterol levels. You're always going to be kind of stressed and a little bit inflammatory on cycle. But the difference between using a product like N2Guard and not is night and day. When the sense of well-being and the sense of health that some of the listeners and members on the forum have told us about, the difference is so obvious to them. That's not even science. They literally just feel better. But when they've gone away, and we've actually seen blood tests done with this, Steve, I think of a few examples on the forums where people have posted up their results and said, this is my on and this is my off. This is my with N2Guard on, and this is my without N2Guard on, and you can see the difference in the numbers yourself. So that is, to me, proof. And I know for myself, and I think Steve can say the same thing, hand on heart, that we've used N2Guard and we feel better on cycle. What does that also mean, guys? It means I can push harder. I can, to put it euphemistically, Steve, fuck shit up more. I can go harder in the gym because I know that I'm looking after myself. To use a euphemism that I said, well, it means I can put my foot down harder in that fast car because I know that I can drive faster safely, that the car's not about to blow up and die a horrible fiery death. I can do more fucked up shit. And that means, in simple terms, guys, more muscle, leaner, more muscular looking, better results on stage, better results on the platform. In my case, Steve, it's more weight on the bar because I can stress my body hard and I can recover better. And regardless of how hard I'm stressing my body, I can feel better while I'm doing that. And I think that's kind of really what we're talking about here, guys. There's some final thoughts from you, Steve.
Yeah, let's talk about dosing though before we finish up. And very, very important with N2Guard. So the recommended dose is going to be 7 caps a day. And yeah, that's a lot, but it's a lot of stuff you take, right? So the bottle itself has enough. If you're taking 7 caps a day, the bottle is enough to last you a month. So it's got you covered for a month's worth in each bottle. Now, let's say you're running a very harsh cycle. Tren, Superdrol, some of the other more potent steroids. You're going to want to run more of N2Guard. It makes a big difference for me. So what I'll do is I'll run 7 caps, and then I'll throw in 10 caps here and there as I see fit on a very, very harsh cycle like that. And that would kind of get me where I need to be in terms of how I feel and different things on cycle. So that's what I recommend you do. Now, PCT. And yes, post-cycle therapy, very, very important in post-cycle therapy to run a good PCT. Helps give you a soft landing. And one of the things in PCT that you should be doing is also, protecting your organs and getting your organs healthier and getting your body healthier and balancing your hormones and balancing your metabolism and everything. And those are ingredients that are in N2Guard. Also, it helps you with water retention and that sort of thing too. These little things that you don't think about. And so with the N2Guard, when you use it in PCT, it's actually going to boost your PCT. You'll feel better in PCT. Your mood will be better. Everything will be better. It'll help balance out your hormones as well. It's got ingredients for that too. So absolutely use it in PCT. You can use the 7 caps of PCT, but you can also use less. You can use 3 to 4 caps. That will make the bottle last longer. It's all about saving you guys money. Okay. So absolutely, if you've got no problem using 7 caps a day, it will be amazing. But let's say you're on a budget, you just ran your cycle, it's expensive, you're in a PCT, you're trying to save some money, but you don't want to lose out on benefits. You can still get away with running 3 to 4 caps of N2Guard. And the same thing off cycle. If you want to save money, you want to make that bottle stretch out for 2 months, you can run 3 to 4 caps a day and make it stretch out for 2 months. But absolutely, if you want to get the full 100% benefits, you want to run the 7 caps. So, Mobster, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking, Steve, do you know what? And I hope this applies to our listeners. We get to a point in training in our quote unquote lifting careers where our sense of well-being, how strong we feel, how powerful we feel, how muscular we feel, our ability to push hard in the gym, we get aware, Steve, the stresses of daily life. My head wasn't right when I went to the gym. I couldn't go as hard. I missed out on a meal the other day. My roughage needs to increase because I can feel constipation. I'm getting that kind of sense of bloat or whatever else. And again, I'll use the analogy of the car. If you've got a really, really nice sports car, Steve, or a racing car, a good racing driver will take that car around. There's something wrong with this. So you get aware of these things and you start to understand, for example, if I increase my dosage from, 800 milligrams a week to over a gram a week, I should have a sense of well-being or otherwise, and I should notice the simple fact that I'm on more gear. I should notice the simple fact that I'm putting my body under more stress. Now that's without blood tests and actual results and training diaries that tell me that yesterday's training session was amazing, but today's was horrible, and so on and so forth. We become more aware of these things. And when Steve talks about a PCT, I'm thinking both on and off. I will want to make my body perform as best as possible on. So keep everything ticking over as nice as I can, staying as healthy as I can, and then obviously getting as successful a cycle, the best possible results. And when it comes to PCT, we just still stress our bodies. We just still, especially in this case, stress our organs. So I'm trying to get my organ health back to where it should be as quickly as possible, as healthily as possible. So here we go, guys. Make sure that you're looking at a product like N2Guard from Needtobuildmuscle to keep yourself highly tuned, like a racing car, like a racehorse. I want you out there in the gym killing it. I want you getting the most muscular you ever have, the leanest you have, those cut you ever have. I want you to get the best results on stage and the best results on platform. But at the same time, I want you as healthy and as functional and especially after a cycle, back to where you should be as quickly as possible. And I want you to do that with products like N2Guard. Please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It's our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcast is for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.